Welcome to I'm your data scientist .com. Today we will be looking at one of the AWS services, which is IAM, Identity and Access Management. So we'll be looking at what identity and access management is. We'll explore users. Within that IAM, it's got users, groups, and we'll be logging into AWS console using those users we have created, so on and so forth. So let's look at what IAM within AWS is. I usually find any services, if I want any services within AWS, I would click services, then look for these tabs. They've got nice organized tabs, and there it is under security, identity and compliance, IAM. Or you can just simply type in IAM, and it will also give you that services. But I would recommend this way to force yourselves to know where each services are and what each services are categorized as. So, for example, Athena is analytics, EC2 is under compute. If somebody talks about SE3, it's a storage services. If somebody was to talk about Elastic Cache or Dynamic DB, it's a database. If somebody was to talk about Cognito, it's about security and identity and compliance, so on and so forth. So I think for me it's useful that you go through this process rather than just typing in and find what services you want. So let's further ado click and let's see what it does. So IAM will take a few seconds before it configures. Okay, so there we've got. So this is how the dashboard looks like. So the key thing is to take this IAM user signing in link. So let me just copy that onto if I can copy that and go back to it. So you can see under users, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 users created. Under groups, you've got 1, 2, 3 groups. So within a group means it's a collection of users, policy attached to them. So policies are all the services you want to give access to a user, or if you have a set of users or set of groups, you can attach these policies to either roles or groups. So let's look at users first of all, and let's see user 1. What do we have in user 1? So as you can see from this dashboard, that user 1 does not have a permission, correct permission. Let's look at policies. Let's look at groups. Within groups, you can see there's EC2 admin, EC2 support, S3 support, so on and so forth. Let's look at EC2 support. In here, you can add different users. You can see if you were to click permissions, you can attach any policies we've created, access advisories, but users at the moment we would want to add a user which we want to access this platform. So let's look at a group. We already have one policy name. Let's look at that policy. Let's look at so it has all these services available within these policies. So that was for one policy. Let's look at other policy groups, which is S3 support. It's got one policy which is Amazon S3 read-only access. So it's only read-only access to that user. So if you have to drill down further, it will give you what kind of things it allows a user to do. So get bucket, get analytical configuration, get bucket location, so on and so forth. So it's if you wish, you can add further actions within the policy. Let's also look at another group, which is EC2. So it has one policy attached, EC2 policy, and it doesn't have any user. So let's go back to dashboard. As a AWS solution architect, you'd be asked to add users according to business cases and business scenarios. So in this case, imagine your organization implemented EC2 instances and S3 bucket, and you have 3 users to add to those EC2 instance and S3. In terms of, in other sense, you want them to allow and edit or modify or access EC2 instance and S3 based on their permission and based on their performance, based on their job role. So that the user 1, he only needs to see S3 support, S3 bucket, and it's only be access, read-only access, whereas the EC2 user 2 would only use EC2 read-only access, whereas the EC3, which is kind of admin support, so it needs to view, it needs to stop, it's to kind of full privilege to him to whether he will be like kind of a person who is administer your infrastructure in terms of when to start and stop EC2 instances and so on and so forth. So let's look at how we can do that on IAM. So first user we need to add is the user 1 into S3 bucket. So the way you do it is S3 support, add user, and it's a user 1, then click add user. You can see now it's user 1 appears in there, and if you were to click user, and you can see what groups it's available to, what is or attached to. Let's attach user 2 to EC2 support, just as read-only access, just as we've given S3 support. So groups, you can add EC2 support, then add, or you can go user and user 2, and you can add groups. Say there are 3 groups available, so we want to give him EC2 support, add groups. So you must have noticed that before we added a user from groups, then selected a group, then add a user here, whereas now what we have done is we have clicked into user 2, then added groups for that user. So there's 2 ways you can do that. It's quite handy to know, not just a one way, it's a 2 way. So let's add another user, which is I think EC2 admin. So EC2 admin, so we want EC3 as admin. So you can see it appears there. And if you were to look at users, they all the users have groups attached to them. So now we have given access to all 3 users. So how do you configure, or how do you go and check that they've got right permission to connect to? So let's copy this and see if that makes any sense. If you can connect to using different user 1, user 2, and user 3. So when you copy and paste that URL, you get this window where you have the user account ID or aliases. Then you type in, we're trying to log in into user 1 and the password is, then try and sign in. So user 1 should have only access to S3 support, so which is S3 bucket. Let's see, S3, this is my best part, S3 support, and you can see it's got user 1 has access to S3. You can create a bucket, say 1 2 3 that, and click next. He's able to create bucket. Next, create a bucket. Okay, he's not allowed to create a bucket, or he's only able to access the bucket. So he's got all these bucket, AWS log, all these files. He's only allowed to access this bucket rather than creating a bucket. So let's look at another. You can see here that user 1 is logged in. Let's try and create EC2 if that's allows user 1 to create EC2 platform or not. So try and launch. Select any resources. There you go. It throws an error saying you are not authorized to perform this action because we've been only given S3 access, and that is only read-only access, not even write-only access. So this is very handy in terms of what who can access what. Let's try and use another. Let's try and log out, and same URL, and at this time let's log in as a user 2. See what access we've got. So user 2 supposed to have only access to EC2 read only. So again, if we were to try and see what kind of compute cloud we've got one instance running. That's interesting. And let's see, one instance running. Are we allowed to create any new instance? Let's try that. Okay, so it says read only access to Amazon EC2. So configure, launch, acknowledge. Let's say proceed without, acknowledge, launch. Okay, so again, it takes you straight to the last step where you can create or where you are about to finish creating EC2 instance, and it gives you security error. But I think it would be handy for AWS to create a policy where it stops you from very first step, saying, oh, you do not have access to create EC2 instance, rather than going through all these few steps further. But you can see it's working now. That it has restricted to not allow this user to create EC2 instance. Okay, so let's look at user 3, which has access to EC2 admin as EC2 admin. So you should be able to view all the instances, start and stop instances within EC2. So user 3, and let's try and sign in. See what resources he's got. So let's try and go into EC2, Remember that user 1 and user 2 did not have access to create EC2 instances. Let's see if this user 3 has access to create new instances. Let's try and launch. Let's try and create Red Hat micro. It's fine. IAM role. You can attach IAM role. Again, it says you do not have access to attach IAM role. Add storage. That's fine. It's temporary purpose. You can add a tag saying name. What is the tag? Value. I would say EC2 test. That's fine. You can create a new security group, or you can select a security group within that VPC. You can attach this user to it. Then preview and launch. You can launch that without proceeding. Launch. Yeah, you do not have access to create this instance. Why? Because it says you only have access to view instance, start instance, and stop instance, not create instance. So there's 4 different things to create instance, then start an instance, then view an instance, and stop an instance. So this EC2 admin user does not have access to create an instance. So we saw that this user does not have access to create an instance. Let's see if we can view an instance. So we've got this instance. We've got to look at the public IP address and try and copy. See what we get. So let's try and stop this instance, if we have access to stop this instance or not. Yes, we do have access to stop this instance. So you can see it's stopping now. It's just stopping. So it'll take a while before it stops. So while it's stopping this instance, let's look at if we have access to S3 bucket or not. So under storage, S3. Yeah, there you go. So it says error, access denied. So as user 3 only has access to view an instance, starts an instance, and stop an instance. It doesn't have any other resources. So you can see how granular it can be. You can restrict multiple resources. Within that resources, you have all these accesses restrictions. So this is great feature from any cloud platform, really. So today we looked at AWS identity and access management, IAM. We looked at how to add users to a group, and from group to add a user, and looked at a business case, and we signed in using the users we created, and see what kind of access resources or services they had. So this is a great feature from AWS. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you.